So I am back with my mom, Jermaine Brathwaite, who was born in Carriacou, and we're talking about her experience growing up during the 1950s, 60s, like the end of the 50s, beginning the 60s. Um, I forgot to ask you, mom, about the wanga in the fruits. So tell us something about stories about when fruits got wangad.
Well, it's mainly the yellow plums.
Okay.
When yellow plum is in season, children, the moment one get yellow, you will climb the tree to get that one, and a lot of green ones will fall on the ground. So next door to where we live, it's our cousin, great uncle Rogers, and we called his wife Auntie Rogers. They had a very big yellow plum tree there. So seeing that they know as soon as it start getting yellow, we will start stealing it and throwing all the green ones on the ground, which our parents don't like children to be doing, and all the leaves on the ground, the branches on the ground. So, and he will call us together and say to us, now, do not touch that plum tree because it is wanged. I called in Mr. Afri, and he did wanga the plum. And anybody that eat that plum, the belly will swell. When the time comes, I will call him to take the wanga out, and this time there is a long kind of a piece of cloth tie up with a string on the tree. This is the wanga ride, they should say. When the time comes, I will call him to take off the wanga, and therefore the plum is free to be eaten, and everybody will get some. But if you guys ever go and pick it now, your belly will swell. And because of that, we never touch the plum until it is ready. And then Auntie will call Mr. Afri, and he comes and he will say a little, silly to me, make a little something. It's when we grew up we realized all that was not true. Say something and tie that thing from the tree, that wanga, and throw it aside by the plum root, the plum stem, and said, okay, the wanga is off now, Miss Rogers. So Auntie will get a bucket, and we have to help pick it because the plum trees does be so laden and it stretches low to the ground. We help pick it. You're even still afraid to eat one while you're picking. And then she'll give me the share what you want to send home to us and other children around. And then that's how the wanga story is. For about the yellow plums.
I've seen the wanga. I've seen.
Oh yes.
I remember Uncle Job had his yellow plums in truth. Wanga, the bottle. I think he said it had stale pea.
Well, Uncle Job was so strict that we couldn't go over there at all in that plum at all. So that's why it's to Uncle Rogers we used to go, because we know the wanga is over there long before you even tell us. So we never used to go there until when they call us over there to get some from when they pick the whole pack, the whole amount to pick. They do a general picking, they send to the neighbors around. But that was good time. And when we grew up enough, my sister and I and others, Philippa and Radix and others, we realized this was such a trick they played on us. There's no wanga.
Well, as you know, I grew up in Grenada, and I only heard these things. I heard about wanga and stuff in Carriacou. So we were terribly afraid of it too. And Uncle Joe warned us not to touch those half-ripe plums. Don't touch the tree until he tell us to touch the tree, and because it's wanga.
Besides the yellow plums, Uncle Job and Uncle Noel also had grapes. The grapes we have here. The running grapes, the grapes that run on the vine. Well, believe me, you've seen the wanga staring you from the time you look like this. You're not even going next to the grapevine. So yeah, they had this kind of grapes, the North American grapes.
Yeah, I know they had lots of fruits. I remember they had ackee trees,
they had
and
the
all
red
kinds
grapes,
of European fruits growing there.
And they had sapodillas there too.
Yeah.
So besides, being as the wanga is very prevalent in everything, not even go over there to even look at it to see if the plum or the grapes or the sapodilla is ready.
So who was Mr. Afri? What was his role?
Mr. Afri was a grave digger. Oh. And the frightful thing about it is when he comes to put the wanga, he will come with a paper bag in his pocket with some dust. And he will open that little bag and he said, this is grave dust, and the things for the cocking is in the dust. And he pour it in the bag and he make a little sprinkle on the tree line. And then he tie the bag and tie it on the tree, and you see, now the plum is fully wangan.
Okay.
So We was terribly afraid of wanga trees.
I experienced it, so I know. All right, so let's go into talking about culture because I when we you brought us to Carriacou, and I've learned things that I never saw happening in Grenada. I don't know if it happened prior to the 70s and 80s, but when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, I only learned about Bomene and maroon, but Carriacou maroon is different to what Grenada call maroon, and parent plate and stuff. So I want you to tell me a little bit about those things.
Yeah, Carriacou people, they have a lot of the African culture. And I think they developed their own kind of culture too, because I don't know about African having maroon. I don't know. I mean festivals. So there are certain there are certain times in Carriacou, certain villages will have a maroon. So they have, like, they call it parents' plate. They cook a lot of food, and people will come and eat and have a good time, and they will put food on the table in the night or overnight, and in the morning they call all the children around to grab food. That's what we call grappy.
Okay.
And it was really, really nice. Sometimes Brunswick will have 6-year-olds will have the maroon. Then you'll hear in about a month or so Brunswick maroon is on. Then you'll hear Leicester maroon is on, and people keep moving from maroon to maroon to maroon. Then Harveyville maroon, then Top Hill maroon. And people used to be so enthusiastic to go to the maroons, but we as children, well, the ones close by like Brunswick, we used to go to, and I think Hillsborough people used to give because Carriacou people will give things to the maroon. People will come around and tell you, well, they're having a maroon, so we used to give to the Brunswick maroon, because Hillsborough never had a maroon where I live in the town.
Right, I forgot to say that yeah, you're from Hillsborough.
Yes,
right.
So Brunswick maroon was our kind of maroon. And once I think they had one in Baptist Cross, which is our family up there. Yes, yes, the Baptist, just a little over Hillsborough.
Close to the pond.
Right. So this was our maroon. We give for maroon, although we will give other people when they for the different area, but this was our kind of maroon. That's where the Hillsborough people used to go, to the Brunswick maroon.
And I read somewhere that, I was told actually that the maroon had something to do with praying close to the wells to get water.
When it's dry season and the season is late and rain didn't come, because Carriacou people depend on livestock and the agriculture, like corn and peas and potato. So when the season time come and no rain, definitely they will have prayers and make a maroon, because they want to beseech the Lord, God-fearing people, to send us some rain for us to have season, so that we'll be able to plant corn and peas and even the groundnuts and so on.
Right.
So, and because we are the cocoa people, they always have to plant the okra. Yes.
Because okra must go with cocoa.
The cocoa and okra and cornfish.
Yeah. So bomene.
Yeah, the bomene is similar, because that is patois. Is this like big cook, big cook in a big set of food. Now they call it smoke food.
Oh.
Yes, so anytime you hear they are going to a bomene, it's either a tombstone feast or a maroon, or else they having the village parents' plate or something.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Because in the 70s, we as kids, I was quite young, I remember following the seniors. Not you weren't so much because you were occupied with us as kids, but to Bomene. And
didn't you ever go up there with Cherry?
Yes, we went to a few Bomenes. I really like the word because it also sounds like you're bumming food.
I think that's what it really, in other words, really mean. Yes.
So then you used to tell us about those 10-cent dance.
Oh yeah. When we were little, Brother Ned, there was this gentleman called Brother Ned. His mother was Mother Ned, and Brother Ned used to be in Trinidad, but every Christmas he'd be home, and he used to have a 10-cent dance for children. So the 10-cent dance is New Year's Day. Okay. So your parents will dress you up nicely, and you get all your new things for Christmas. Because our grandmother in Grenada and our father in Grenada used to send us our Christmas stuff.
Yes.
Nice short pants and little tops, and flip on them dress nicely. All the children from 6th Road, Brunswick, Hillsborough, Top Hill, Prospect, all children, hundreds of children. We come down to this 10 cents dance, and Brother Ned is at the door.
Where was the 10 cents?
The 10 cents dance used to be in a hall called the St. Michael Hall. It's no longer the St. Michael Hall now.
Yes, I think.
You know that
at one time it was the old police station. Wasn't
no.
It? Oh no, sorry.
It's next to the old. It's the old police station. Then there was Nana Mina, where she had a private school, and then is the St. Michael Hall, which was belonged to Catholic.
Right.
So we used to have the Catholics to have whatever concert there, but that's where the 10 cents children dance used to be every New Year. We look forward to that.
Okay.
So, and it was really, really very good. He orchestrated it very good because it started at 1 o'clock and it finished about 5:45. So children, because long ago children have to be home before 6. So children who are far, their parents come to meet them, but we that was near, we just walk home.
Yeah.
Yes. So by 6 o'clock we home because we're not living too far from the St. Michael Hall.
So we said parent plate, but you didn't tell us what it is. What is parent plate?
Parents plate is like Carriacou people believe in their ancestor that is gone. So when they have they cook, they make this big maroon or whatever, the bomene, whatever you call the food. They will put, I said that, but I didn't explain.
Yeah.
Food on the table because they believe that their ancestors, their old parents, will come in and have part of the
Oh,
meal.
so that's why it's there overnight.
Called parents' plate, yes. Right. That's why it's there, because they believe they come in spirit and enjoy with them. Because before the maroon starts, they usually throw water, libation, and call most of the relative names and say, you know, and then after telling them, well, we're so glad to invite you to the feast, but then they will say rest in peace. Yeah, so that was the reason for the parents' plate. Yeah.
A little bit off is you told us the story about when you first heard the word cancer, Uncle Tommy. And I want to say too, what I found in Carriacou, maybe it's in Grenada, but not as prevalent. There are lots of Nen titles. You address people as Nen, Parin, Pa, and so on.
And tan this and tan that and tan the other.
And tan is actually the French word for aunt.
Yes.
Yeah, so you told us about Uncle Tommy's situation when some people went to evoke him. You don't have to say who, but just tell us.
Yeah, because in the early days, like when we were little, people didn't really understand what cancer really was.
Right.
So
why people die young and unexplained.
Right.
Yeah.
So sometimes people have cancer and they will say they have something called carbuncle, or they have this big growth, but we did not know that time. You know, scientifically, we did not have all this explanation about these things.
Right.
So, Uncle Tom's brother died, and they thought somebody poisoned him. So, well, there was people who like doing things like going and invoking the dead. So they went to because he was a young man, and they were so distraught that he died. They thought somebody killed him. They wanted to know who. So they went and invoked the man. They say he came up, and they asked him. They called his name and asked him, "Who killed you?" He said, "Nobody killed me. I had a cancer in my throat." And then he went back and they ran. They ran from the cemetery because they were so afraid, because the voice they said they heard from the grave was so loud.
So powerful.
So powerful, as if it was like a blast of thunder. So you see, that's why the scriptures say, when you're dead, do not meddle with things like the dead. Because this is not really the dead.
It's a different realm.
Right. It's some kind of other evil entity.
Right.
Because the dead is sleeping. They don't know.
Okay. So we'll come back in a bit and talk about school.